let's start looking at the next stage in the design process, the ideate stage, or you could call it the conceptual design phase. All right, so where does that fall? Remember, we have several different design processes, whichever one resonates with you, that you can take a look at. So if you're using this one, we walked through problem identification, specification development. We're now in this green conceptual design phase part of the process. So yes, we're going to be talking about solutions now. And if you're using this one, we did define and identify. We're now in the brainstorm and select portion together. So we're going to brainstorm solutions and select promising ones. And then if you're using the dip and pick acronym, we're on I, the second one, ideate. So we're going to brainstorm solutions, funnel them down, and select the best one. All right, so that's where we're at in the design process. Specifically, we're going to look at things like functional decomposition, brainstorming. Next time we'll look a little bit more at prototyping, proof of concept prototypes, and we're going to evaluate the feasibility of different solutions and select one. So the learning objectives for today are to learn how to conduct functional decomposition and why it's useful, be able to apply different brainstorming methods to find as many possible solutions as you can, be able to evaluate all of those different solutions. And we will look at proof of concept prototypes, but we'll do more of that on Tuesday. For now, we'll just give you some potential methods that you can use to evaluate different solutions without making prototypes. And then we'll tell you how to select the best solution to move forward with. First, functional decomposition. The point of this is to help you break down your problem into smaller pieces so that when you do brainstorming, you don't feel overwhelmed to come up with the biggest and best idea that meets all of your requirements or specifications off the bat. So functional decomposition basically is going to take a look at what your product or solution or process that you're designing has to do. What it has to do. Still not quite solutions of how it's going to do it. And so you're going to have some sort of inputs, a bunch of things that your product does, and an output. All right? And within between these inputs and outputs, the what of the product, those are your functions, okay? And you could have functions with sub-functions, things like that. So for example, think about opening a door, right? What's happening? You're rotating a doorknob. Okay, that's the what that's happening for opening a door. But you could break it down further, right? And you could do rotating a doorknob to release a latch. All right, so that's really what's happening, right? Knob rotates, door releases. Okay, so you could break down your own problem into different sub-functions or different what's that have to happen. One way this might be very, very useful is if you do some reverse engineering. So if you research current solutions out there, you can take apart those different products and reverse engineer them. Think about what it is each of those products is doing, break it up into different sub-functions, and then for each of those sub-functions, that's where you can come up with your own ideas on how to make it better or do it in a slightly different way that gets you the same what outcome. All right, so you can think of different hows for those specific whats. Now remember, when you're doing design, you don't have to come up with a totally brand new idea, right? You can take an existing design and modify it, maybe slightly, maybe a major modification. That is still design, okay? You're still coming up with something new. You're making something better. So you very well, for your particular solution, take something that's already out there and modify it to make it better. All right, so functional decomposition may help you find somewhere where there's a weak point that you know that you can make that part of that product work better. Okay? And then lastly, what they could really, really help you with is helping you break down your problem. So if you can think about the different what's that you have to accomplish for your problem, then you can brainstorm solutions specifically for each of those different what's. And this is great because it may help you come up with ideas that you maybe never thought of before. So let's say you have 3 different functions that you're trying to meet, 3 different what's. And then you come up with, say, 5 hows, solutions of how to do this function. Maybe you only came up with 2 for this other one, and then you've got like 4 for the last function. All right, so we've got our what's, and then how we might accomplish those what's. And then you can mix and match, right? You can say, well, this one maybe works well with those 2. So you can put them together. So you don't have to think of this 3 solutions all at once. You can think of them individually for each different part of what you're trying to accomplish, and then put together. And then maybe it's these ones or these ones, and maybe you find this solution doesn't work, or maybe it works well. So you can mix and match and see if any of them work together. Okay, so it might help you break up your problem a little bit better and make coming up with solutions seem a little bit more manageable and a little less overwhelming. How are people feeling about functional decomposition? This is just generally speaking a possibility to help you either reverse engineer or come up with multiple possible solutions for different parts of your problem. Any questions on functional decomposition? All right, so when we do some brainstorming later today, you can either decide to work on one specific function, one specific what of your problem, or you could try to do the whole thing. And then as you do brainstorming of more solutions coming along, make sure you think about this and come back to it if you get stuck, or maybe you're not thinking and solving and meeting all the requirements you expected. All right, who can tell me what brainstorming is? Why do we do it? What's the goal? Saad.
To understand what's the big idea come in our mind, and put it in one thought, and after that we can understand what's the big stop.
The big what?
So,
The big stop?
no, the big idea.
The big idea.
Yeah.
All right, so it's trying to come up with the big idea, right? That's the end goal of brainstorming, or really of the whole ideate process. Brainstorming itself, though, how can you get that best idea, the big idea, right? The one that you're going to go forward. Brainstorming is the method you're going to use because you're going to get a ton of different possible solutions to your problem. The whole point of brainstorming is to get lots and lots of solutions. Most of them you're going to throw out the window, okay? And that's okay. And hopefully by getting lots and lots of solutions, you'll be able to find one of them that works the best and meets a lot of the different requirements you're trying to meet. So we're going to generate lots and lots of ideas, but there's some things to think about as you're brainstorming. Some do's, some don'ts, some common pitfalls, okay? And one of the things is you can work both individually or as a group. Of course, you want to be creative. But I think one of the most important things is that you do not criticize any idea, okay? We are going to discard ideas, but no idea is stupid, okay? So a seemingly stupid idea could spark a totally awesome idea, okay? So, and maybe on the face of it, it seems stupid, but at the end of the day, it may not be as stupid as you think. So no criticizing ideas. I think this is one of the most important things. Throw things out there. No idea is a bad idea. At the end of the day, you're going to want to have some fairly concrete ideas, though. So as you begin the brainstorming process, they can be more abstract, more higher level, but you're going to want to get closer and closer to a more concrete idea. So the brainstorming part can get you partway there, and then once you have that, you're going to want to try to refine things a little bit more. Don't forget to look at nature, all right? Nature has some really neat things happening, neat ways that it accomplishes things. And so maybe something that nature does will be very, very useful for you. And then also don't forget about looking at what other people have done, okay? So benchmarking, reverse engineering, those could be very useful things for coming up with different ideas. And then be very, very careful of the pitfalls. So this comes with not criticizing ideas, okay? You need to have a leader or a facilitator of brainstorming that keeps in mind possible pitfalls and keeps the group on track, make sure that nobody gets criticized, and then also tries to avoid some of these other pitfalls. So you may have some really loud and dominating people who speak a lot, or maybe some quiet people who don't. And we don't want to miss out on ideas that people who may not be as comfortable speaking in front of people, or maybe they're afraid that their idea is stupid or they'll feel foolish. We don't want to lose out on those ideas, okay? So classical brainstorming is that somebody stands up at the board and everybody just shouts out ideas, right? And so here is where you can get some people's voices to not be heard. And I'm going to share with you some methods of brainstorming that you can use that will help avoid some of these pitfalls, okay? I've got 3 methods for you. First, brainwriting 3-6-5. The second is brainwriting pool, and the third is ideation. All right, so we're going to talk about all 3 of these different methods, and then we're going to practice 1 or 2 of them today. The brainwriting 3-6-5, the point of this is that each person is going to be brainstorming their own ideas, but you're going to be able to see what other people did. So what you do is you take a piece of paper or a card and maybe some Post-its, and you will come up with 3 different ideas and put them on your piece of paper, 3 Post-its or 3 boxes with 3 different ideas on them. And you will have about 5 minutes to do that, and then you will pass your piece of paper to the next person. And the 3-6-5 comes from the fact that you should come up with 3 ideas, that you have 6 people working on the brainstorming, and that you spend 5 minutes. Now, you don't have to follow 3, 6, and 5. Some of you have only 4 group members or 3 group members, so maybe you're a 3-3-5, okay? Or maybe you want to give less time because you want to see everybody's idea more, and you only want to spend 3 minutes, and you got a 3-3-3, okay? So you can use the same process, change those numbers slightly. So each person will come up with 3 ideas in a specified amount of minutes. Pass your paper to the next. Now everybody can see the ideas that we already came up with, and you can maybe spark some new ones. And you can get rid of some of those pitfalls, like what if somebody likes to speak a lot and somebody else doesn't, right? Well, nobody's speaking. We're all just writing on a piece of paper. We don't have to be distracted by other people's thoughts, and we can do a nice brainstorming process where everybody's voice gets heard. And hopefully spark some ideas by seeing what other people wrote. So that's the brainwriting 3-6-5. We also have brainwriting pool method. So this is fairly similar, but a little less structured, okay? And the point of this is to really help you in case you get a block in your head and you're like, I just can't think of anything else, I'm not creative. So for this method, what you do is you have to start out with a little catalyst. So you have to do a little bit of sort of group brainstorming and come up with like a couple ideas that you write on 1 sheet of paper and put that in the middle. Okay? And then once you have that in the middle, now each person gets their own sheet of paper, and they start writing ideas on there. Now, writing ideas could be drawing pictures or just writing words, okay? Pictures can be very useful. Now, let's say you've got 2 ideas on there, and you're like, I can't think of anything else. I don't know what to do. Well, there's a piece of paper sitting in the middle with a few more ideas on it, and so you swap papers. And now you've seen 3 new ideas, and maybe those will help you spur some new creativity between like what you came up with before and what you have now. Maybe put some things together, spur some new ideas, and you'll be getting new paper in the middle all the time, okay? So putting paper in the middle is a good thing, right? The more you put the paper in the middle, the more you see other people's ideas, the more you could be sparked your own, okay? And this also avoids the pitfalls of having people shout out and dominate over people who don't say anything, or people who are afraid of seeming foolish or things like that. All right, and so you could set a time limit for this, but there's no structure of when you switch that paper. So it's whenever you feel like you need a fresh set of eyes on things. And the last method is a more structured process to trying to break through some sort of wall that you hit when you're trying to think of ideas. All right? So the more ideas you can come up with, the better odds are that you're going to find a solution that works really, really well. So you can ask yourself very structured questions. Here's a really long list of questions. So you could think, okay, what's wrong with it? How could I improve it? Can I modify it, magnify something, minify something? What about safety? Can I make it safer? Can I make it simpler? Ask yourself these different questions, all right? And there's a lot of questions. So in different orders that pretty much encompasses all these questions from your book, there's an acronym that you can use, SCAMPER. Now, we've got a couple of different 3 M's and 2 R's up there, but this will help you remember, in case you don't have access to a list of these ideation questions, what some of them might mean. So you can use these very structured questions to try to get your mind thinking in a different direction and come up with more ideas. Now, you could do various different things where maybe you have a group of people and each person has a different question or 2 or 3 questions that they ask. Or you could just all think about all the questions yourselves. But if you ever get stuck and you really can't, you've even tried, you can combine different methods. So maybe you're doing the brain writing pool, right? And you're stuck in there. Don't forget about these questions. So anytime you can use this ideation method, even as part of some of the other brain writing. All right, so we've got 3 different methods of brainstorming. 3, 6, 5, or whatever numbers you end up using. We've got the brain writing pool, and we've got ideation. And we're going to do a brainstorming activity, group brainstorming, and we're going to follow a specific process. So we're going to pick a facilitator, so you're all in your groups, but Omar, are you by yourself? You're fine. All right, so Omar, you're probably just going to do ideation, since there's no pool or people to pass to. All right, so pick a facilitator. Make sure you define the problem and specifications and or functions that you're trying to solve. So you could pick one function if you want to break it down, or for today, since you haven't really done functional decomposition yet, you can just try to think of overall solutions to your problem. But make sure everybody knows exactly what the problem is you're trying to solve. And then we have our team, so that's our group. And then the facilitator should explain the process so that everybody knows which one they're using and how it works. So we're going to use brain writing 365 or 3, 4, 5 or 3, 3, 5. All right? And we're going to go ahead, and I've got paper up here if you want to do it on a piece of paper, and Post-its. You'll see why later Post-its can be very, very useful for later stuff that we're going to talk about. So if you want to stick each different idea on a Post-it, that's a good idea. So you're going to record it. Everyone's going to be involved, and remember, no judging, no bad ideas, okay? And careful about laughing about ideas too, okay? We don't want hurt feelings and things. All right, so pick a facilitator. Pick a facilitator. We're going to have multiple facilitators, so you can rotate. All right? And then that facilitator is going to define the problem and explain the process. And go ahead and grab stuff. So get out, either you can do it right in your design notebook, or you can do it separately and paste it in, or take pictures if you're electronic. So I'll give you a minute here to grab your stuff that you're going to document things on. All right, so facilitators, remind everyone what the problem is, any specifications that you've already developed, so that people can get all on the same page and know exactly what they're trying to come up with solutions for. And once they have done that, you can go ahead and start, and we'll have about 3, 4, 5 minutes, and then we'll switch. All right, did everybody get to see everyone else's paper?
I mean, if it's like a pathway,
Yeah?
like when you're crossing the street or something, like.
All right, we're going to come back to this brainstorming. And we'll do another one later. But let's talk about how we can evaluate these different ideas that you come up with and select the best one. I have 7 different tools for you. Most of these are funneling processes to help you narrow down your choices. And then we will use this first one, the decision matrix or pew chart, to make that final last choice. So all of you will have a decision matrix at the end of the day that will help you select which design you're moving forward with to create your prototype and bill of materials and other stuff that we'll talk about later. So I'm going to come back to number 1. Number 2 is called affinity mapping. So this is why Post-it notes are great. Because what you can do is take all of the ideas that you've come up with and start organizing them, grouping like things together, and seeing just kind of what it looks like. Now, from this affinity mapping, maybe you can see that there's this big group of ideas, and then there's a couple smaller ones. So that might tell you, hey, that big group, that's kind of where maybe all the good ideas happen. It might not be the case. Maybe you look at that big group and you're like, actually, most of these ideas are going to fall apart because of a specific thing, and we'll get rid of those. But you might be able to see different connections between different groups, or maybe put 2 groups that you never thought together. Hey, what if we did something from this group and this group and put them together with a new idea? Okay, so it's really hard for me to tell you exactly what you'll get out of your affinity map, but you would hopefully get some new information that might help you come up with better ideas or select certain ideas to move forward. You can also rank all the ideas that you have. You could do that individually or as a group and sort of tally the different ranks. And this is very similar to number 4, which is Post-it or dot voting. And in this case, you just have all of your different ideas, and you give each person a certain number of Post-its or dots that they can use to mark which they think are the best ones. So let's say you have 25 ideas, and you have 3 people in your group. Maybe you give each person 3 dots. Or maybe you even do dot voting where you give 3 dots that are pluses, and everybody gets 1 veto dot. You know, something like that. So you can do dot voting to help narrow down your list. And then take some of the best ones. One that I really like is this Now How Wow matrix. So we've got a picture for this. On the x-axis, we've got normal ideas over here on the left and original ideas on the right. So more creative, out-of-the-box kind of things. And then on the y-axis, we have impossible to implement up high and easy to implement down low. And you take each of your ideas and try to put them in one of these 4 quadrants, okay? And based off of how they are in the quadrant, if it's a normal idea that's easy to implement, it's something you can do right now, you know? So if you're at a real time crunch, hey, you know, this solution works for us now because we got time constraints, right? Or maybe you have a really awesome idea, but it's super complex, right? And you don't know how to implement it. Then you can try to start to maybe break that down, do some functional decomposition, and see if you can come up with some ways to make it less complicated or make it work. Or maybe you have some wow ideas, right? So these are easy to implement and really creative. And then if you're in the wall, or maybe you have 2 in the wow, then you can go and use what we're going to talk about, the decision matrix, to pick which one of those is the best. So I think that's kind of a cool one to kind of see where your ideas might be feasible and really neat ideas, and put those 2 together on a graph. Similar to that is a 4 categories one, where you can place each of the different solutions that you came up with in one of the categories. So most rational, delightful, most darling, long shot. So if you have any in the long shot category, you can probably just throw those out. So it might at least help you funnel out some ideas that you won't consider anymore. All right. So most of these, oh, and we have one more. Most of these things are going to help you funnel ideas, not necessarily pick the idea. This last one will help you pick there. And I have one more method that you can use to help you select winners, and that's having different people put on different hats when they think of different ideas. So you can think about having an information hat, a optimism confidence hat, a judgment hat. So this is that devil's advocate. So if any of you have that team role of being the devil's advocate, you're already hopefully wearing this hat sometimes. Somebody who's going with their gut feeling kind of thing. Somebody who's really focused on that creative side. So how original is that idea? And then always have a blue hat person. So this is your facilitator usually, who's going to really think about the process and ensure that you've got people, maybe you don't have a lot of people, so some people are wearing multiple hats. And so you can go through your different ideas with different people wearing different hats. And the blue person sort of facilitates that process, and see if that helps you either delete or bump up certain ideas that you've come up with. All right, so we've got 7 different things, and once you've narrowed it, so you're going to funnel from lots and get a few more less and a few less and a few less. Once you've got it narrowed down to maybe 4, 5 different ideas, now we're going to do a very systematic way of selecting which of those that you funneled it down to is really the best. And by best, how does it meet the requirements? So you actually have 2 really tools to do that, benchmarking and decision making. We talked about benchmarking whenever you saw Dr. Procise last. So we have some sort of house of quality where we have customer needs and our specifications. So you did sort of this part here, and then once you research current products, you can benchmark how those meet your customer needs, and you can put your own ideas here as well. So this is one method of being able to sort of figure out which of the ideas might be the best. Or I think what's more useful is doing a decision matrix. So specifically what you do is you take your 4 or 5, or maybe you can do more, solutions, and contrast that with all of your specifications. So it's a lot like the house of quality, except for we're really looking at just the specifications, not the customer needs. And we're doing this because these are supposed to be measurable, all right? As much as you can, these are supposed to be measurable criteria, so you can really think about each of the designs and how do they measure up to those criteria. Maybe some you can actually do some calculations for, back of envelope calculations from like physics or something. Other ones maybe more of like gut kind of things, like how well do each of these solutions meet each of your specifications separately, not together, separately. And then you also want to actually weight all of your specifications. Some of them are going to be more important than others. And there may be some that have to fall by the wayside because it may be too hard to meet all the specifications super well. And so you definitely want to weight different specifications so that if something has to happen, it's got a weight of 10. Like, it's got to be safe, man. That is so important. If it's not safe, we can't like do it, right? So certain specifications will have different weights. Then you take all the numbers for what you put, how well did each of these designs meet that specification, multiply it by the weight for each of those specifications, and then add all that up and get an overall score for each of your solutions. And hopefully there's a clear winner that comes out here at the end in an overall score. So this is a really systematic process. Instead of just saying, I think number 10's the best, I think it meets them the best, you're actually really thinking about each of your specifications and each of the solutions and how well, just in that narrow box, will it work? And then you'll find, by the numbers, which one should work the best, right? Now, if you don't have a clear winner, that could also help you. Maybe you can combine 2 of the top ones, right? And get a clear winner, or do some more functional decomposition and take different pieces of a different solution. But hopefully you get a clear winner. If you don't get a clear winner and you have to move forward with the best one, maybe further down the design process it doesn't work as well as you thought, you can come back to your decision matrix and go with winner number 2. All right, so this is one example of a decision matrix, and I got one more. It's a slightly different way to essentially evaluate each of the specifications, and this one flips solutions and specifications doesn't matter either way. So they have the specifications here and the solutions there, but they still weight each of the specifications, okay? And they have a slightly different way of tallying a score for them. So they do plus, minus, and satisfactory. So average, above average, below average. And then what they do is they tally all the pluses, all the minuses, and then subtract and get an overall score. But they do it also for the weighted. So they could take 4 pluses and 4 minuses, and those would essentially cancel each other out, right? So they can get a weighted total as well and a weighted overall score, and they have a clear winner, right? Number 9 is clear winner. They have some bad ones, and then an okay one, I guess, at number 4. All right, so this is a very systematic way to pick a winner, all right? And we expect you to follow this process. So if on day 1 you read your project description and came up with what you thought is the best idea and you just want to push that one forward, that's no good, okay? It may very well come out to be the winner, but you never know until you do this systematic process. So we want you to prove to us that of all the ideas that you used, prove that you've brainstormed, came up with a bunch of possible solutions, show us that you've narrowed it down, and show us how you select that final one, okay? And that way, if you do that and things don't work out at the end, well, you still followed a good process. We talked about how engineers, we fail, people fail, okay? So it's not the end of the world. But hopefully by following this process, you will be less likely to have something that doesn't work because you really thought about how it meets all of your requirements. You know, you really went through that process. So this should hopefully deter you from having an overarching, like, complete colossal failure, okay? And we're going to practice this, and we've got 25 minutes left, right? So we're going to practice this, but we're going to do a little bit more brainstorming first so you can practice a different model. Before we do that, this decision matrix is very important, okay? The other methods, pick and choose what you will to help you funnel because you don't want to do this decision matrix for 100 ideas. All right, and you will probably have 100 ideas. So you're going to want to funnel them out first, and then you'll have this for a smaller number. So they have 5 of them here, although this first one is what's currently out there, okay? So 4 or 5 ideas. If you want, you could do maybe 6, but don't do too many. Try to funnel it down before you get to this point using some of those other methods. So are there any questions on this? Because this is crucial to helping you move forward. Yusuf.
The weights should be in scale 0 to 5?
That's a great question. So here they use a scale, I think 0 to 10 or 0 to 9 maybe. You can choose your own scale. All right, so they chose a plus minus S scale, so 1 through 3 scale essentially. Yes, you could choose your own scale. And as long as you use the same for each, so if you use a 1 through 5 for this and a 1 through 10 for this one, you know, maybe, but be careful of the weights of those two if you use different scales because you are going to add them up, okay? So you can think about how you want to do it and do that before you think of the solutions, okay? So that's kind of where your weighted comes in. So if you do 1 through 10, then that would be your weighted. Or if you want to weight it as in, well, this one's twice as important, so it's 1 through 10 and this one's 1 through 5. It's basically the same thing. But yeah, so you can think of 1 through 5, maybe that works best for you, or the plus minus S, different kinds of ranking systems, so to speak. How well does it measure up works well. And there may be a few, like, so this one looks like, this is a factor of 10, and it's either a yes or a no, 0, 1. Okay? But it's weighted with a 10, so it's either no points or all the points, because it's that important. But think about these weights and how you're going to rank them before you put your solutions and put these other numbers on there. Otherwise, you might bias yourself.
So my question is right now, in the top would be the weights of the current design goals. On top of the
These ones are new. Okay, so these numbers, They just have, so let's say they had 15 ideas, they funneled it down to idea 1, 3, 5, 10, 11, 12. So this would actually be like an actual idea behind this. It would have, maybe a picture, or better description. So they would be more like these ones. So those numbers on the right there would be more like this, the actual ideas. Those are the solutions. They just have them by a number. I think it's better to have the names because it's more clear when you look at it, and instead of trying to be like, what was idea number 3? So I do like the names better, yeah. Good questions. Any other questions? Okay, I'm going to continue to come around and look at your design notebooks. And what we're going to do is another brainstorm, but this time we're going to use ideation as our method. All right, so you can decide whether you want everybody to think about all of these separately or whether you want to give certain questions to certain people. That's up to the facilitator to decide. They're going to pick so you're all going to pick a facilitator. The facilitator is going to define the problem that you're solving for you, so everybody's on the same page. Our team's picked, and they will explain the exact process, base it off ideation, and then you'll apply the method, record your results, no judging anything, and everyone will do it. And then when you're done with that, so after about 10 minutes, then we'll move on and we will look at evaluating ideas so you can practice making a decision matrix.